Today I'm going to show you a little tip about a trick that I use in Photoshop. Well, not even really a trick, it's just a little process that I use in Photoshop to make people's eyes a little brighter and add a little crystalline light to their eyes. So here we are in Photoshop, and you can see I have an image open already. And I haven't really done much to this at all. This is pretty close to out of camera. You know, I've done a couple adjustments, but not much. We're just kind of starting to work on this. And normally, working on the eyes might not be my first step, but for this tutorial, I'm just going to start on the eyes, because that's what this is about. So, I'm going to zoom in so I can see what we're working on. And we have one layer, we have the background layer, so you never want to work directly on that. So I'm going to duplicate that with Command J on the keyboard, or background, just drag that down to the new layer icon in the layers palette, and it'll duplicate. So now that we have a copy of that, we want one more. So we're going to duplicate again. Now we have 3 layers. On that third layer, we're going to name it Eyes. Let's see, there we go, Eyes. Because that's the layer we're going to work on to do the brightening of the eyes. So we have them right here, and to do this, I'm going to go to the Adjustments palette, or menu, and then I'm going to go to, you have all these options here: brightness, levels, curves, exposure. I'm going to use curves, but you could easily do this with levels, or probably even the other ones as well. Anything that can manipulate brightness levels. I like curves because it just allows me some more control, and I'm used to using curves for other things as well. So here we are, and I'll zoom in one more time. You can see in her eyes right here, they've got this beautiful blue-green kind of color, but they're a bit dark. So I'm going to use, I don't know how familiar everyone is with using the curves adjustment, but if you don't know, you can basically, at a basic level, if you were to click and hold, put a point on the curve and drag it up, things get lighter. If you're going to drag that down, things get darker. Now there are many uses for the curves adjustment. You can add contrast, take it away, you can fix color casts, add color casts, do all kinds of things with it, but for this, we just want to start up here, kind of the upper right quadrant, and we're going to just push that up by dragging the point that we made up. And I'm going to keep pushing that up until it gets pretty bright. You know, we're looking just at the eyes right now. Don't worry about the skin, don't worry about anything else but just the inside of the eyes. And we want that colored part of the eye to really be visible, you know? We want to be able to see the color of the person's eye, the details in it. And that looks nice. We can see some detail there now. But also, you can notice the darks of the eye are kind of washed out. You know, it's looking a little flat. It's bright but flat. So we're going to go in the curve down to the lower left quadrant area, and we're going to make a point by clicking, and then just click and hold on that and pull that down. And now you can see it adds a lot more contrast. And you don't want to bring it much you know, if you bring it really far down, it's going to block up and look bad. So you want to keep it not very far beneath the original line that's there, the straight line. Maybe just kind of bring it down till you see some contrast there, you know, see? Your shadows are still dark, but now your highlights and midtones have gotten brighter as well. And you can really play with this. You know, your curve could look any number of ways. For this particular photo, I'm just going to kind of keep playing around until I get the brightness I like. Remember, we're only looking at the eyes, so let's see. Something like that maybe. That looks pretty good to me for now. Maybe a little bit less than the midtones. How about that? Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. We're just looking at the eyes, we see they're good. Press OK. Now if we zoom out, we see a photo that's obviously incredibly washed out. This is not a good adjustment we would want on the entire photo. So what we're going to do is mask that back in selectively. To make a new mask on your eyes layer, make sure your eyes layer is selected. Hold Option on your keyboard, that's on a Mac. On a PC, I actually, off the top of my head, I don't know what it is. It's probably Alt or something. But hold Option on a Mac and click the new mask button at the bottom of the layers palette right here. Now that gives you a new mask on top of your layer, and that mask is black, and it's going to cover up the entire layer. So now we can't see anything that we just did, and we're wondering, okay, so what was that for? Well, what we can do is now paint on that mask with a brush, a white brush, and it's going to reveal selectively that layer. So we're going to zoom in to just the eyes, and we have our brush. Select the brush and the brush palette over here, and make sure your color is set to white. And I usually do this on 100% opacity because it's easiest to see that way. I'm going to make sure my brush is at 0% hardness. We want a soft brush. And the size, well, it's going to depend on your photo. For this particular photo, I'm just going to keep pressing the bracket keys on my keyboard, left to go smaller, right to go larger. And I'm going to make it about this size. I don't know how easy it is to see in this YouTube video, but it's about the size of the inner colored part of the eye, because what we want to do is just brush that in. So now that I have the brush set up and I have the black mask selected on this layer, I'm just going to brush right in on top of that. And already there we go. There's our light that we've added to the eyes. We do that to both eyes. And I'll zoom out so you can see. You know, there we go. Sparkly, bright eyes. And depending on how bright your curve was, you might be done. You know, you might think that looks great. I'm ready to go. I'm done. But for me, you know, I'm not sure if that might be too much for my image. And I did this on 100% opacity with the brush, so I like to do it that way and then take the opacity of the layer itself down. So, you know, I'll start with 0, I'll zoom out, and I'll say, okay, this is the original. How much brighter do I want it? Now, we just bring the opacity up a bit at a time. And as we do that, the eyes start to get brighter. I'll zoom in. Starting at 0, we just bring it up a little bit at a time. And here we go, there's some light in the eyes. This is roughly, okay, 57%, about half opacity. And you can see, I'll toggle it on and off. There's a difference there, you know, it's gotten brighter, and I think it still looks pretty natural. You know, that's believable light. But if you've seen any of my photos, you know I'm not against a little bit of, well, amping things up a little bit more, a little bit hyper-real. So I'm going to bring this up a bit more, you know, 70%, 80%. I'm just going to look around till I see what I like. You know, this is a creative process. It's up to whatever you want to do. So for this photo, I'm going to leave it maybe like that. You know, I backed it off to about 80% from 100 because that's just what I think looks good. So anyway, in that pretty short amount of time, all we've done is create a new layer. We've used curves to brighten that layer, and then we made a mask to selectively reveal the eyes back in, the brighter eyes. And with just that, it makes such a huge difference, I think, because it goes from something which might look great already, but, you know, people look at eyes. You look at a photo, you see the eyes, and putting the light in there makes them a little more interesting, and it draws you to them even more. And, you know, pretty much everybody has beautiful eyes. Like, you want to emphasize them, and people love looking at them. So brightening them up a little bit is usually a good idea. And I hope that this little Photoshop tip has helped you brighten the eyes of the people in your photographs. Thanks for watching.